Hey guys, it's Maura, and in today's video I would like to talk to you guys about some of the most requested questions I've had about drug screens, the most asked questions I've had, and just some ones I thought I would talk about since it seems to be kind of like hot topics. But anyway, if you haven't already, check out my drug screen video where a lot of these questions were asked. And also, if you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to comment down below and I may make a second video answering more questions. But first one I want to talk about is, of course, synthetic urine. So I get tons of questions about, is my synthetic urine going to pass a drug screen? Like I would tell you guys if it was or not anyway. No. And really, I have no idea. Honestly, it depends on the quality of your synthetic urine. And I don't know what kind of urine it is, what kinds work, what kinds don't work. I do know some can make nitrates positive, or on our test, the side of it, nitrates turn a certain color, not just like nitrates like you had the bacteria in your urine, but like way positive, or it can be positive for oxidants. And there's a lot of ways that drug screens can kind of catch that, and they don't catch all of them, and usually those are additives to urine and not like synthetic urines. But anyway, I'm not super well versed in synthetic urine, so when everyone asks me, is my synthetic urine going to pass, my answer is, I have no idea. There's a lot of factors in that there's no way that I can know. Okay. Another thing is they ask about their drug screen getting done in the lab. So there's a lot of different labs. There's hospital labs, there's clinic labs, there are what we call like reference laboratories, there's confirmation laboratories. So depending on what type of drug screen, in my scenario, someone comes in and they maybe it's post-accident or pre-employment drug screen. We do the drug screen here, and then if we get a non-negative result, either maybe they use the synthetic urine, or something goes positive and the patient, or the person can actually be on it, and maybe they're not supposed to be, or maybe they are, just you never know. Then we will send that on to our reference laboratory, and that's when they are going to do confirmation. Reference laboratory can be, ours is MedTox, and that's where our confirmations get sent to. Now, some people get their drug screens, like when I went to different jobs, I went to LabCorp, and that's where, or Quest, and they do their drug screen there, and I think it's the same thing, it gets sent out. It gets sent out if it's more like a LabCorp or Quest, like small clinic, it gets sent to their main laboratory, or if it's a big enough laboratory, it may get done in-house, the confirmation of it. So there's a lot of, so when people ask about if it gets sent to the lab, it depends what lab you're talking about and where you first do your drug screen, technically. Okay, and I have a lot of questions, so question number 3, I have a lot of questions about if I pass at home, am I going to pass when I go to the laboratory? And again, really depends. What kind of drug screen are you using at home? Like Dollar Tree ones or whatever. It depends on the cutoff. Is it the same cutoff as the place you're going? I have no idea what the cutoff is at the laboratory you're going. It depends on what methodology they use. Is it just eyesight, or is it one that's read like with lasers, basically? If you want to see my other drug screen video, I'll put that at the end. The MedTox reader that we use in-house on patients that come in like through the ER and we want to see. That's not read visually. The reader actually reads it. That's its job. So it depends on the cutoff. Is the cutoff the same? Like, a lot of THC is like 50, was it nanograms per deciliter, milliliter, whatever the units are. But also, what is the accuracy of that test? It may say the cutoff is 50, but if it's only accurate, like 80%, what's the precision on it? I don't know what kit you guys are using, so I can't answer that question either. Another question is number 4, the nicotine. Nicotine is not tested in these drug screening tests. In our laboratory, nicotine is a separate test. It's like a little cartridge. It kind of looks like a pregnancy test. It's either plus or minus. Or, I mean, there's either 2 lines or 1 line. And so kind of the same way with a drug screen. And a lot of employers are testing for nicotine testing now. They won't hire, actually, if you're positive for nicotine. A lot of hospitals are doing that. Or if they do hire you and you are a nicotine user, then your insurance actually costs more. So that's something to know. I've had people ask me if their old urine will work. I mean, no, because you know, we check the temperature, and if the temperature isn't close to body temperature, or actually a little bit warmer, because your pee is usually a little bit warmer than body temperature, then no, that's not going to pass. Question number 6. Does the drug screen tell exactly what kind of drug? And no, technically it doesn't. It shows the class of drug. If that's like oxy, THC, benzos, depending on what kind of drug screen you have. It could be a 5-panel, which has 5 different kinds of classes of drugs, or 10-panel, which has 10. And so any of those, you know, could be a lot of different kinds of drugs that are in each kind of class. And so that's why we send it out for confirmation, to see exactly what type of drug that this person is positive for. Or it can be a false positive, so that confirmation, you'll find out what exactly drug it is and if they are prescribed that, or if it was just a false positive, like I said. Another question I've gotten is about CBD oil. So I personally don't know anyone who has taken CBD oil and has gone positive for THC. Everything I've read really seems like it's so low in THC that you'd have to consume a lot to be actually positive on a drug screen. But I don't know anyone personally who takes CBD oil regularly, who has been drug screened, to, you know, ask them if they passed or anything like that. So technically, no, you shouldn't be positive, but I can't know. Okay, so next question I got is actually on my dipstick urinalysis video, and I have a lot of people ask me if that checks for drugs. So no, a urinalysis, a UA with micro, UA with reflex, to culture, anything like that is not going to check for drugs. It is not a drug screen. I think some people get confused because it's called a dipstick, and I think maybe some law enforcement's use certain like dipstick sort of tests to test drugs, or test substances to see if they're drugs. But in laboratory terminology, a dipstick is just the urinalysis part to check your urine to see if you have a UTI, not for drugs. Okay. So next question is, will a drug screen tell me if I'm pregnant or not? No. Drug screens do not test for pregnancy. Doesn't have that capability. I mean, you know, maybe an employer... Actually, I don't think an employer can, like, legally, I don't think they can check to see if you're pregnant or not. So, yeah. Next question. I'm trying to read off my paper what I wrote notes for. Screen... Not. Okay, so on your drug screen, it's not going to say how positive or negative you are, if that makes sense. You're not going to get a number on the actual screening test. It's either visually read, or it is by a reader read, but it's not going to say, you know, how much nanograms or whatever. Now, if it is non-negative, if you get a positive result and it gets sent off for confirmation, that is when you will get in a number, and that's by liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry. I can't talk today. And that's the gold standard of testing. That's like, you know, the most sure thing. You can have false positive with drug screens, but this is actually testing the molecule of the drug and seeing how much is in there. Next question I have has been asked is about dollar store drug test, and if they're the same as, or Dollar Tree, I guess, or if they're the same as the drug testing we use in our lab. No, they're not the exact same test. But the methodology behind it is the same. You know, if there's a line, if there's not a line, negative, positive, those kind of things are the same. If it binds and then migrates to that specific drug. So yeah, so same, yes and no. And their cutoffs, from people who have commented, it does sound like cutoffs are very similar to the ones I mentioned in my video, but you obviously have to look at that, each specific test, to see the cutoff. And you know, it also depends, like somebody passes a drug test at home, are they going to pass in the lab, even if it's the same cutoff? And there's a lot of factors with that, you know, like, is your body releasing extra drugs in your urine that day? Is your urine more concentrated? Is it more diluted? So there's a lot of different things. Like if you consumed THC a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how much is released daily. You know, there may be peaks and troughs in that. I don't know. Next thing is, can you tell gender from a urine? No, I don't think they test. We don't have any way of checking, and I don't believe that any kind of confirmation testing has any way of checking for urine. Obviously, if someone's pregnant, they can do a pregnancy test to see that, or to see if they were using a pregnant woman's urine, but I'm not aware that they do that. I'm not really sure. Next thing is turnaround time. So I have a lot of people worried about getting their drug screen results back, or if it's been a while. I would say a good time frame is probably about 2 weeks, which I know seems like a long time to know if you got the job or anything. But I would say, you know, if you're looking at over 2 weeks, it'd probably be a good idea to call the company, you know, if this is a pre-employment drug screen, and say, hey, did you get my results back? I didn't hear back. I mean, hopefully they still call you and say, hey, you know, I don't know if they call people if their drug screens are positive, or they just, you know, ghost you. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But, you know, it'd be good to kind of follow up with the place anyway, you know, to show that you're interested in being one of their employees, and just say, hey, you know, like, my drug screen, I got it done. And you might even want to call them right after you do it, so they know that you did it, in case, like, paperwork gets lost, something doesn't get faxed. I think that's important to show, like, you're, you know, keeping up with everything you're supposed to be doing. You know, they maybe think you didn't get it done or something. So it'd be important to, you know, contact them and say, hey, I got my drug screen done. And then, you know, if it's a couple weeks go by and you haven't heard anything, maybe call them and say, hey, have you got my results back? You know, and I guess it could take, you know, 2, 3, I wouldn't say any more than 4 weeks. That seems a little ridiculous. I would say about 2 weeks. Because it, you know, it takes a couple days maybe to send it off and even get to the place, and then by the time they process it and get the information back, it can be a while. So anyway, like I said earlier, if you guys have any more questions, comment down below. I will try to make another dedicated video, because all the comments I got on my last video, it's got a ton of views, and it's kind of hard to reply back to everyone in everyone's scenario. In every case, and some of them are like repeat questions. So when I get a couple that are the same questions, then I'll definitely add it in another video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.